卫灵公 Chapter 15 1. 卫灵公问臣于孔子。孔子对曰：祖斗之事，则常闻之矣；军旅之事，谓之学也。明日岁幸。The reigning prince of a certain state where Confucius was on a visit on his travels asked about military tactics. I know a little about the arts of peace, replied Confucius, but I have never studied the art of war. The next day he left the country. 在臣绝粮，从者病，莫能兴。子路运见曰：君子亦有穷乎？子曰：君子固穷，小人穷斯滥矣。Then, going on in his travels, he arrived at another state. Their provisions having failed them, his party had to go without food, and were so reduced that they could not proceed. The disciple, the intrepid Changyu, with discontent in his look, then said to Confucius, a wise man and good man, can he, too, be reduced to such distress? Yes, replied Confucius, a wise and good man sometimes also meets with distress, but a fool when in distress becomes reckless. 2. 子曰：次也，女以语为多学而识之者与？对曰：然，非与。曰：非也，与一以贯之。Confucius once remarked to a disciple, you think, I suppose, that I am one who has learned many things and remembers them all? Yes, replied the disciple, but is it not so? No, answered Confucius, I unite all my knowledge by one connecting principle. 3. 子曰：有，知德者先矣。Confucius on one occasion remarked to a disciple, it is seldom that men understand real moral worth. 4. 子曰：无为而治者，其顺也与？夫何为哉？公己正南面而已矣。Confucius remarked, the ancient Emperor Shang was perhaps the one man who successfully carried out the principle of no government. For what need is there really for what is called government? A ruler needs only to be earnest in his personal conduct, and to behave in a manner worthy of his position. Footnotes 75. The American Emerson, on a visit to Stonehenge in England in company with Carlyle, writes, on Sunday my friends asked whether there were any Americans with an American idea. Thus challenged, I opened the dogma of no government and non-resistance. I said, it is true that I have never seen in any country a man of sufficient valor to stand up for this truth, and yet it is plain to me that no less valor than this can command my respect. I can see the bankruptcy of the vulgar musket worship, though great men are musket worshippers, and tea is certain, as God liveth. The gun that does not need another gun, the law of law and justice alone, can effect a clean revolution. English traits. 5. 子张问行。子曰：言忠信，行笃敬，虽蛮貊之邦行矣；言不忠信，行不笃敬，虽周礼行乎哉？利，则见其参于前也；在于，则见其以于恒也。夫然后行。子张述诸身。A disciple of Confucius inquired what one should do in order to get along well with men. Confucius answered, be conscientious and sincere in what you say. Be earnest and serious in what you do. In that way, although you might be in barbarous countries, you will get along well with men. But if, in what you say, you are not conscientious and sincere, and, in what you do, you are not earnest and serious, in your own country and in your home, how can you get along well with men? Keep these principles constantly before you, as when, driving a carriage, you keep your eyes on the head of your horse. In that way you will always get along well with men. The disciple had these words engraved on his belt. 6. 子曰：直哉始于！邦有道，如始；邦无道，如始。君子哉取伯玉！邦有道，则是；邦无道，则可卷而怀之。Confucius, speaking of a famous historiographer of the time, remarked, what a straightforward man he was. When there were justice and order in the government of his country, he was straight as an arrow. When there were no justice and order, he was still straight as an arrow. Speaking of another public character of the time, Confucius remarked, "What a really wise and good man he was. When there were justice and order in the government of his country, he entered the public service. But when there were no justice and order, he rolled himself up and led a strictly private life." 7. 子曰：“可与言而不语之言，失人；不可与言而语之言，失言。知者不失人，亦不失言。” Confucius remarked, "When you meet the proper person to speak to and do not speak out, you lose your opportunity. But when you meet one who is not a proper person to speak to and you speak to him, you waste your words. A man of intelligence never loses his opportunity, neither does he waste his words." 8. 子曰：“治世仁人，无求生以害人，有杀身以成仁。” Confucius remarked, "A gentleman of spirit or a man of moral character will never try to save his life at the expense of his moral character. He prefers to sacrifice his life in order to save his moral character." 9. 子贡问为人。子曰：“公欲善其事，必先利其器。居士邦也，是其大夫之贤者，有其事之仁者。” A disciple of Confucius inquired how to live a moral life. Confucius answered, "A workman who wants to perfect his work first sharpens his tools. When you are living in a country, you should serve those nobles and ministers in that country who are men of moral worth, and you should cultivate the friendship of the gentlemen of that country who are men of moral worth." 10. 颜渊问为邦。子曰：“行侠之实，成阴之路，福州之冕，乐则少武。放正生，远佞人。正生淫，佞人待。” A disciple of Confucius inquired what institutions he would adopt for the government of an empire. Confucius answered, "I would use the calendar of the Xia dynasty, introduce the form of carriage used in the Yin dynasty, and adopt the uniform of the present dynasty. For state music, I would use the most ancient music. I would prohibit all the popular airs in the music of the present day, and I would banish all popular orators. The modern popular music provokes sensuality in the people, and popular orators are dangerous to the state." 11. 子曰：“人无远虑，必有近忧。” Confucius remarked, "If a man takes no thought for the morrow, he will be sorry before today is out." 12. 子曰：“已矣乎！吾未见好德如好色者也。” Confucius on one occasion was heard to say, "Alas! I do not now see a man who loves moral worth as he loves beauty in women." 13. 子曰：“臧文重其妾位者与？知柳下惠之贤，而不与利也。” Confucius, speaking of a public character of the time, remarked, "He was like one who had stolen his position. Although he knew the talents and virtues of a friend he had, yet when he came to office in the government, he did nothing to bring his friend forward, and was afraid lest his friend should become his colleague." 14. 子曰：“公自厚而薄责于人，则远怨矣。” Confucius remarked, "A man who expects much from himself and demands little from others will never have any enemies." 15. 子曰：“不曰如之何如之何者，吾莫如之何也已矣。” Confucius remarked, "A man who does not constantly say to himself, 'What is the right thing to do?' I can do nothing for such a man." 16. 子曰：“群居终日，言不及义，好行小惠，难以哉。” Confucius remarked, "When a body of men sit together for a whole day without turning their conversation to sonic principle or truth, but only amuse themselves with small wit and smart sayings, it is a bad case." 17. 子曰：“君子义以为质，礼以行之，孙以出之，信以成之。君子哉！” Confucius remarked, A wise and good man makes right the substance of his being. He carries it out with judgment and good sense. He speaks it with modesty, and he attains it with sincerity. Such a man is a really good and wise man. 18. 子曰：君子病无能焉，不病人之不己知也。Confucius remarked, a wise and good man should be distressed that he has no ability. He should never be distressed that men do not take notice of him. 19. 子曰：君子疾没事而民不称焉。Confucius remarked, a wise and good man hates to die without having done anything to distinguish himself. Footnotes 76, that is, of having lived in vain. 20. 子曰：君子求诸己，小人求诸人。Confucius remarked, a wise man seeks for what he wants in himself. A fool seeks for it from others. 21. 子曰：君子矜而不争，群而不党。Confucius remarked, a wise man is proud but not vain. He is sociable, but belongs to no party. Footnote 77. Dean Swift says, a really proud man is too proud to be vain. 22. 子曰：君子不以言举人，不以人废言。Confucius remarked, a wise man never upholds a man because of what he says, nor does he discard what a man says because of the speaker's character. 23. 子贡问曰：有一言而可以终身行之者乎？子曰：其恕乎！己所不欲，勿施于人。A disciple of Confucius inquired, is there one word which may guide one in practice throughout the whole life? Confucius answered, the word charity is perhaps the word. What you do not wish others to do unto you, do not do unto them. Footnote 78. The modern fashionable word altruism. 24. 子曰：吾之于人也，谁毁谁欲？如有所欲者，其有所失矣。斯民也，三代之所以直道而行也。Confucius on one occasion remarked, in my judgment of men, I do not easily award blame nor easily award praise. When I have happened to praise a man in a way which might appear beyond his deserts, you may yet be sure that I have carefully weighed my judgment. The people of today, there's really nothing in them to prevent one from dealing honestly with them as the men of the good old times dealt with the people of their day. 25. 子曰：吾犹及时之阙闻也，有马者借人乘之。今王以服。Confucius in his old age remarked, in my young days, I could still obtain books which supplied information on points which the standard historical books omitted, and a man who had a horse would willingly lend it to a friend to ride. But now such tongues and such manners have all disappeared. 26. 子曰：巧言乱德，小不忍则乱大谋。Confucius remarked, it is plausible speech which confuses men's ideas of what is moral worth. It is petty impatience which ruins great undertakings. 27. 子曰：众恶之，必察焉；众好之，必察焉。Confucius remarked, when a man is unpopular, it is necessary to find out why people hate him. When a man is popular, it is still necessary to find out why people like him. 28. 子曰：人能弘道，非道弘人。Confucius remarked, it is a man that can make his religion or the principles he professes great, and not his religion or the principles which he professes, which can make the man great. 29. 子曰：过而不改，是谓过矣。Confucius remarked, to be wrong and not to reform is indeed to be wrong. 30. 子曰：吾尝终日不食，终夜不寝，以思无益，不如学也。Confucius on one occasion remarked, I have spent a whole day without taking food and a whole night without sleep, occupied with thinking. It was of no use. I have found it better to acquire knowledge from books. 3L 子曰：君子谋道不谋食，耕也，驽在其中矣；学也，路在其中矣。君子忧道不忧贫。Confucius remarked, A wise and good man is occupied in the search for truth, not in seeking for a mere living. Farming sometimes leads to starvation, and education sometimes leads to the rewards of official life. A wise man should be solicitous about truth, not anxious about poverty. 32. 子曰：知己知，人不能守之，虽得之，必失之。知己知，人能守之，不庄以利之，则民不敬。知己知，人能守之，庄以利之，动之不以礼，未善也。Confucius remarked, There are men who attain knowledge by their understanding, but if they have not moral character sufficient to hold fast to it, such men will lose it again. There are men again who have attained it with their understanding and have moral character sufficient to hold fast to it, but if they do not set themselves seriously to order their knowledge aright, they will not inspire respect in the people. There are lastly men who have attained it with their understanding, who have moral character sufficient to hold fast to it, and who can set themselves seriously to put it in order. But if they do not exercise and make use of it in accordance with the ideals of decency and good sense, they are not yet perfect. 33. 子曰：君子不可小之，而可大受也；小人不可大受，而可小之也。Confucius remarked, A wise and good man may not show his quality in small affairs, but he can be entrusted with great concerns. A fool may gain distinction in small things, but he cannot be entrusted with great concerns. 34. 子曰：民之于人也，甚于水火。水火，无见导而死者矣，未见导人而死者也。Confucius remarked, Men need morality more than the necessaries of life, such as fire and water. I have seen men die by falling into fire or water, but I have never seen men die from falling into morality. 35. 子曰：当仁不让于师。Confucius remarked, When the question is one of morality, a man need not defer to his teacher. 36. 子曰：君子真而不亮。Confucius remarked, A good, wise man is faithful, nor merely constant. 37. 子曰：使君敬其事而后其时。Confucius remarked, In the service of his prince, a man should place his duty first. The matter of pay should be with him a secondary consideration. 38. 子曰：有教无类。Confucius remarked, Among really educated men, there is no caste or race distinction. 39. 子曰：道不同，不相为谋。Confucius remarked, Men of totally different principles can never act together. 40. 子曰：辞达而已矣。Confucius remarked, Language should be intelligible and nothing more. 41. 师免见，即接。子曰：接也。即习。子曰：习也。接作，子告之曰：某在思，某在思。师免出。子张问曰：与师言之道与？子曰：然故相师之道也。A blind music teacher having called on Confucius, when they came to the steps of the house, Confucius said to him, Here are the steps. When they came to the mat where they were to sit, Confucius again said to him, Here is the mat. Finally, when they had sat down, Confucius said to him, So and so is here, and so is here. Afterwards, when the blind music teacher had left, a disciple said to Confucius, Is that the way to behave to a music teacher? Yes, replied Confucius, that is certainly the way to behave to blind people. Footnotes 79. All great musicians in ancient China were blind men.